Welcome to the EPL and UCL talks. This is our second deep dive analyzing the fallout from the recent match day, focusing this time specifically on Hansi Flick's management and tactical approach following what was truly a devastating night for Barcelona.
It really was, and that is exactly the mission today. We are here to unpack the systemic weaknesses that were just completely exposed during Barcelona's brutal 3-0 defeat by Chelsea at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, and brutal is the right word. This wasn't just a loss. It was called a solid hammering in the press.
And the analysis, it backs it up. At no point in that game was Barcelona the dominant side on the pitch.
And the implications are immediate. They're severe. This result inflicted a massive blow to their chances of securing a top-8 finish in the UCL League stage.
A huge blow. They're now sitting precariously in 15th place with only 3 matches left.
So when you have a result that exposes these deep-seated issues, from player discipline all the way to tactical deployment, you know you have to take a deep dive. So let's unpack this crucial defeat.
I think we have to start with the point of no return. The moment that 3-0 result became, as it was termed, unavoidable. I'm talking about the recurring crisis around Ronald Araujo's discipline.
The red card. It arrived just before halftime, 44th minute. Araujo's sending off left Barcelona playing with 10 men for an entire half. It was such a self-inflicted wound.
It really was. And the key thing here is this wasn't some isolated, unfortunate incident. This is a pattern of behavior that's now being defined as a new game-changing error that cost the team dearly.
And you have to look at the sequence right. The first booking. That's the one that kills me. It came in the 32nd minute.
Yes.
Not for a tackle, not for professional foul, but for unnecessarily arguing with the referee.
For dissent. And that first yellow is where the real tactical damage begins, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because once you're on a booking, especially a needless one like that,
You've lost your edge.
you've completely lost your aggressive edge. For the next 12 minutes, your whole defense is compromised because Araujo, who is a naturally intense player, now has to play tentatively.
Precisely. And in a hostile environment like Stamford Bridge, that psychological compromise is just immense.
And then what happens? 12 minutes later, he commits that rash tackle, the second yellow. It's a total failure of emotional control.
And when you pull back and look at the historical context, it gets even worse. This is Araujo's 4th red card for Barcelona since 2023.
Yeah, we're not talking about minor mistakes.
Yeah.
We're talking about massive, crucial errors. There was that red card against PSG 2 seasons ago that completely derailed their pass to the semifinal.
I remember that. And the poor defending in the semifinal against Inter Milan last season. These are the moments that define your entire European campaign.
It's a failure of composure in the highest pressure moments, and it points to a really serious issue that goes beyond just talent. The club has to be asking why a key pillar of their defense consistently succumbs to these moments of indiscipline.
So what did Flick have to say about it?
Well, Flick addressed it post-match. He conceded that the second foul, quote, shouldn't have gone in like that, suggesting Araujo should have been smarter. But he also offered that sort of mild reassurance that these things happen in football.
A measured response. Maybe too gentle for such a game-changing error. But the truth is, even before Araujo walked off, this defeat was exposing a much more fundamental issue.
The complete physical and tactical failure in the midfield.
Exactly.
I mean, that midfield battle was lost long before the red card. Even at 11v11, Chelsea was just miles better in the engine room.
Yeah.
The analysis was stark. The Catalan players were no match in terms of ball retention or pressure.
And this brings us straight to the personnel question. Pedri is injured, a massive creative force, gone. So Hansi Flick pairs Eric Garcia with Frankie de Jong in the double pivot.
And Garcia. Well, the assessment was brutal. He failed miserably against Chelsea's aggressive physicality and press.
He looked completely overwhelmed. I mean, Garcia is a tidy player, technically. But against the sheer force of Chelsea's setup, he looked slow. He looked positionally vulnerable.
And we can't let de Jong off the hook either. He's the senior player there. He wasn't the main point of failure, but he just couldn't anchor the midfield. He couldn't provide that link play. He just looked isolated.
Meanwhile, Chelsea's setup under Enzo Maresca was just a blueprint for dominance. Moises Caicedo and Reece James were rightly described as dual-winning machines.
For sure. They controlled the tempo, they were intercepting everything, and the offensive impact was just as telling. Enzo Fernandez, his penetrating runs were so effective that he had at least twice the game that Fermin Lopez had for Barca.
And what's fascinating to me is the quality of Chelsea's aggression. They weren't just fouling.
No, not at all. The sources noted Chelsea's tackles were a real masterclass. They were precise, they were accurate, they excelled in both technique and physicality.
That's the difference, isn't it? It's aggression versus indiscipline. Chelsea used their bodies, their timing perfectly. Barcelona just lacked that toughness.
Which brings us directly back to Flick's own diagnosis. He didn't hide from it after the match. He said his team made some big ball losses. And critically, he admitted they needed, quote, a little bit more aggressivity in our game.
He even made the direct comparison. He noted that Chelsea players play more with the body and more dynamic in the one-against-one situation.
Right, and that's a clear mandate for his shift in philosophy. Flick is demanding a change in attitude, a change in physicality. But this brings us to the central tension in his management style. He's demanding ruthlessness.
Yet we saw this remarkable display of empathy right after Araujo's dismissal.
It was a very rare, very human moment.
Yeah.
After the red card, Flick did something most managers just wouldn't do. He crossed the pitch to console and acknowledge Araujo with a hand touch before the defender left the field.
And it was lauded as a clear demonstration of Flick's beautiful human side.
Of course, most managers in that situation, especially in a hostile European away game, they'd be fixated on reorganizing the team. Give the player a cold stare or just ignore him until they're in the dressing room.
But Flick prioritized the human connection in that instant. And here's the critical conflict. A source noted that an assistant coach actually had to step in to try and redirect his focus back to the match.
And this raises a really important question, one for you, for the listener, and for the club's long-term health. Could this deeply empathetic approach actually work against the team's need for tactical toughness?
You mean, if the manager prioritizes comfort in a moment of critical error, could that foster a sense of leniency or even complacency among the players when what you really need is a ruthless, cold focus?
Exactly. It's a profound dilemma. He's demanding more aggression, more physicality, but then he offers profound comfort when a key player fails dramatically in those very areas.
Can you instill that true competitive ruthlessness while maintaining a coaching style that is so fundamentally based on emotional connection?
It's a tough balance. On one hand, players will run through walls for a manager like that. But on the other, they might lack that necessary fear of failure, that intense psychological edge you need to eliminate those big mistakes.
It's the tension that will define his time there, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of tactical focus, or maybe a lack of it, we have to talk about a specific tactical blunder. The Marcus Rashford question.
Oh, absolutely. Rashford, on loan from Manchester United, he should have been their secret weapon in England. He knows this kind of football inside and out, yet Flick starts him on the bench.
It's just staggering when you look at his performance against Newcastle. A 2-1 win where he scores 2 brilliant second-half goals. He gets a deserved standing ovation. His experience with Premier League players, the atmosphere, the pace, it's vital for these away games.
The argument being made is that leaving him out of the starting lineup against Chelsea was a fundamental failure in pre-match tactical planning. Rashford brings that pace, that directness. He understands how to exploit the high line that these aggressive English teams use.
That familiarity was crucial, and it was just left on the bench.
Right. He only comes on at halftime for Ferran Torres when the game is already heavily skewed against them.
And after the match, Flick says he's happy Rafinha is back, happy that Rashford is on this level. But that doesn't really explain leaving him out for the whole first half of a must-win game.
It suggests a manager who is prioritizing his system, his rigid structure, over pragmatism and player form. Sometimes you have to adapt your personnel to the opponent.
And despite all this, despite the defeat and the clear tactical issues, Flick was incredibly optimistic after the game.
He was. He said he saw some really positive things and claimed the team's intensity is totally different than maybe 6 weeks ago. He even promised we'd see a different Barcelona in the next match.
That optimism is admirable, I guess, but it has to translate into results, and fast, because the qualification outlook is now, well, it's incredibly tenuous.
Tenuous is an understatement.
So, lay it out for us. Where do they stand now in the UCL League stage, mathematically?
Okay. Barcelona is currently 15th with only 7 points. They've lost 2 and drawn 1 of their 5 matches. They are well outside the top 8 automatic qualification spots.
So what's the path? What do they need to do to avoid the playoffs?
They have 3 games left. The maximum points they can get is 16. That 16-point tally is the exact number last season's 8th-place team had.
Wow.
So the sources are clear. They will likely need to win all 3 matches to guarantee that top 8 finish.
9 points from 9. That is an enormous amount of pressure.
It is. They have to mentally prepare for that 2-legged qualifier, which is looking increasingly likely.
Yeah.
And the pressure is worse because, on paper, the three remaining fixtures are favorable.
Right. Home games against Eintracht Frankfurt and Copenhagen and away at Slavia Prague.
And that's the terrifying part, isn't it? It's almost scarier to face three weaker teams when you absolutely have to win every single game perfectly.
The burden of perfection against teams you're expected to beat. It can cause teams to freeze up. They have to be flawless now. The margin for error is zero.
The path is there, but Flick has to make sure his team brings the aggressivity he's demanding, or the humiliation of missing the top 8 is going to become a reality.
So the Chelsea defeat really was this painful culmination of all these recurring issues. A star defender's lack of composure, a clear physical disadvantage in midfield, and just questionable tactical decisions.
And it all comes back to that central contradiction in the manager.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Hansi Flick demand tactical aggressiveness from his players. Yet we also saw his profound empathy in that most decisive moment after the red card. So thinking about that tension, the critical question for you to think about is this. Can Hansi Flick effectively instill the tactical toughness required to succeed in the Champions League while simultaneously maintaining that beautiful human side that clearly defines his management style?
That balance. That's the whole key to their European future.
It is.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the post-match analysis of Barcelona's crucial defeat. We appreciate you taking the time to share this knowledge with us today, and we look forward to the next time we get to dive deep into the beautiful intricacies of European football. Until then, farewell, stay well, and safe travels.